Hi, welcome back to the Snipe Museum of Art. My name is Joe Becherer and I'm honored to serve as your museum director. Today we're standing upstairs in the Beardsley Gallery, which is where our collection of modern and contemporary art is housed. Behind me are three important paintings by Joseph Albers, one of the most important masters that influenced modernism and the contemporary period. Albers was born and raised and initially taught in Germany, but his greatest impact perhaps came as a teacher in the United States. But before we explore his life a little further, let me step out of the way so you can appreciate the paintings themselves. Each of these three paintings, the one large at the left and the two smaller at the right, are a part of an important series that really defined his career and helped to define much of what we think about in terms of art theory today. The series, Homage to the Square. Before we talk about these works individually, let's reflect back on Albers' career. Initially, he taught elementary school in Germany, but in 1920, he was accepted into the design program at the Bauhaus. By 1925, he was elevated to the rank of teacher and remained there until 1933 when the Nazis closed the school. Thanks to Philip Johnson, he was able to get a position in the United States at the fabled Black Mountain College, where he worked for many years until he left in 1949 for Yale. He was extremely important as a painter and as a theoretician and as a teacher, and was extremely concerned that students fully understand the importance of composition, or what we think about as visual organization, and color. Homage to the Square uses color in subtle and sometimes bold ways to help us think about space and shape and placement and visual arrangement. The piece at the left-hand side is entitled Homage to the Square, Compliant. It is painted on masonite, and if you look closely, you can see the tooth or the surface of the masonite coming through. At the center bottom middle is the primary square, rather a taupe color. It is surrounded by something that's more of a tangerine color, but it is set off against two tan stripes at the left and right, and gray at the top and bottom. Perhaps the colors in the center you would think about as analogous and in relationship to one another. But the gray tone really helped to set the rest of the composition and hold it in place. One of the things that is important to think about when you're seeing one of these images, try to imagine changing one element. Move a square, change a color, shift forms across the surface of your imagination. And you can see just how important structure is to the artist and how important thinking about color is as it relates to composition. Stare carefully at these works. There is an iconic quality to the works. After a while, the colors begin to influence one another, and what you thought might be of a certain variety actually begins to change. One of my favorite parts of studying his paintings, part of the Homage to the Square series, is to look at the edges where colors come together. You can see the artist's hand. You can see evidence that these are not fabricated by a machine. They have not been digitally rendered, digitally fabricated. That even though there is something so very tight and organized and composed in the work, there is the evidence of the human being. The works at the right-hand side are visual delights in and of themselves. Sometimes the titles can help us think more clearly about what he was trying to say through color and composition. The one at the bottom is called Slate and Sky. And one can't help but think in these three elements how the colors and the shapes relate to one another, and after spending some time with the work, do pulsate, do seem to shift ever so subtly, like an evening sky. Just above, Guten Tag, good morning, from another time of day, the morning, the brightness of the sun in the center, an orange, peeking through, coming up against the green. The orange is held in place by the darker orange, which is held in place by the green. Here, especially, if you look at the outlines or the borders of the individual colors, you can see the evidence of Albers' hand. Throughout his long and distinguished career as both an artist and a teacher, he hoped that his influence would be a constant reminder to young artists to think about not just color, but to think about composition. Why is this so important? Well, think about the 1950s and 1960s when this series, Homage to the Square, was fully underway in his repertoire. This was the moment of abstract expressionism, where vibrant, sometimes chaotic brushwork reigned supreme. This then became the moment of pop art, where images from popular culture, from movies, from TV, penetrated the artist's work, where society and popular culture mingled with fine art. Against both abstract expressionism and pop art, the legacy of design that was so important to him as a member of the Bauhaus, but throughout the course of his career remained constant. The number of students that worked with him, that studied with him, that sometimes argued with him, is legendary. Major movements from minimalism to op art to hard edge abstraction are directly inspired by his efforts. But there were many artists who went down other paths where figuration and appropriation were central, but they were indebted to him in the way that he thought about color and composition, forms very definitely locked, seemingly so, in space. Next time you're at the museum, stop upstairs on the second floor and enjoy these three wonderful pieces and give yourself some time. Give yourself some time to let the color and the compositions unfold. Thank you very much.